Welcome into the PFF NFL Daily. Today discussing Bucs guard Ali Marpet retiring at the tender age of 28. So we're going to get into this. And look, last year at this time, there was a lot of hot news, Sam. There was QBs being traded, rumors of trades. Russ was upset. Well, this year we have guards retiring. But it is a big deal because we're talking about the 2020 Super Bowl champs, not only losing Tom Brady, not only dealing with Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, gone, but now 3/5 of their offensive line gone. Both guards and centers, either free agency or now retirement. So a lot of question marks with the Tampa Bay Bucs heading into 2022.
Yeah, potentially gone at least. Marpet retires at the age of 28. Ryan Jensen and Alex Kappa are scheduled to hit free agency. We don't know if they'll actually make it that far yet, or if the Bucs will find a way to bring them back. But yeah, all of a sudden, the thing that the Bucs did last year, right, which is successfully bring back everybody for one last go round and one last chase at repeating at getting a second Super Bowl championship. Tom Brady retires, and all of a sudden, immediately, it's going in the other direction. You're having guys potentially leave or definitely leave, and you're taking away, some of the core of what has been a championship caliber team as long as they have the quarterback. Without the quarterback, all of a sudden things start to get chipped away, and guys that, might have been up for one last go round if Tom Brady was there and they knew they had a good chance of chasing a ring, have just decided, you know what? No, I'm out. And the Marpet thing is really interesting because he is so young. He's 28. He's retiring, at the peak of his powers, coming off, I would say, sort of back-to-back career years for him. The 2 years with Tom Brady there, Marpet's been as good as he's ever been in the past and one of the best guards in the NFL. And Marpet's looking at this and saying, I've got my Super Bowl ring. I've got a hell of a lot of money. I'm 28 years old. Now I'm out. Like, football's been good to me and I'm gone. And this isn't the first time that a guy has sort of taken a look at the landscape and done that. And it does appear that it's sort of edging ever more in that direction in terms of being a trend amongst NFL players.
So now, from a Bucs standpoint, thinking from what are we doing team building wise? Last year's strategy was pretty clear. Like you said, we're going to run it back. They had a bunch of free agents. They made sure everybody came back. They took another shot at it. Didn't work. But where do you go now if you're the Bucs? So we mentioned, I like to say when guys are free agents, I just kind of like count them as they're not there. Of course they could resign. Of course they could get franchised, whatever it might be. 3/5 of your offensive line not under contract. The receiver situation. Gronk is technically a free agent. I would assume he's not going to be back. At the same time, though, the Bucs have been rumored to maybe kicking the tires on the Deshaun Watson situation. People thought, hey, maybe they go the trade route at quarterback. But is that the right move? Should the Bucs just say, look, we had to do this all-in thing. We had Tom Brady. It's not like they're overflowing in cap space or draft capital this offseason. Do they just say, hey, look, 2022, it's a step back to then take a step forward? We got to slow play this a little bit because trying to contend with all of these question marks could be difficult to do.
Yeah, and as you say, with 3/5 of the offensive line potentially not there anymore, it's becoming a tricky thing to try and balance with whatever the quarterback is going to be, whether it's Kyle Trask, the guy you drafted a year ago, in theory, take over from Tom Brady at some point down the line, whether it's a guy you're going to try and draft this year, which feels unlikely given where they'll be picking,
hey,
or
Bruce Arians is saying some nice things about Blaine Gabbert. Said he's never had a team this good. Could be Blaine Gabbert.
Stop. It's not Blaine Gabbert. Not even Blaine Gabbert's family believe it's Blaine Gabbert at this point. Blaine Gabbert doesn't believe it's Blaine Gabbert. There's not a human being in the world that believes that Gabbert is just like one opportunity on a decent team away from being the truth. Like I don't know why he said that, but it was a waste of everybody's time, including his own, because nobody believes it. So, maybe they'll go the veteran route. They'll try and trade for somebody, or they'll try and bring in a guy like Marcus Mariota in free agency. Who knows? But now you got to try and figure out A, who that's going to be, and B, one of the great things about Tampa Bay in the last couple of years has been they've had one of the best offensive lines, if not the best, in the NFL over that period. Now, Tom Brady helped it by getting the ball out of his hands really quickly. Only Ben Roethlisberger had a faster average time to throw than Brady this year. But it was a really good starting five. And now at least one of the five is gone. 2 more are scheduled to be gone unless they figure out a way of bringing them back. And at least one of those guys, Ryan Jensen, I think it's going to be costly to bring him back. Like, it's going to take a decent chunk of change. The good news is, we've talked before, that there are a lot of like decent level starting caliber guards available in free agency. So they might be able to replace Marpet with not as good a player, but a capable starter for not a lot of money. But all of a sudden, the Bucs have like serious work to do to put an offensive line in front of whoever their quarterback's going to be.
Hoops fans, the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is too good to pass up. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't yet available in your state, you can still take a shot at a big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy basketball contest, and DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's promo code PFF at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I think what you said there is the issue, right? Now, I always use the term whack-a-mole when you're trying to fill all these spots on your roster. All of a sudden, the offensive line is a bigger issue. Ali Marpet's average per year, though, over $10 million a year. That will open up some money, but it's just another place where they have to draft, another place where they have to get maybe a low-budget free agent to find a starter. The thing that's tempting, though, for all that's being said here about, hey, the Bucs look like they could be in this rebuild, they get a few players back, and if they do somehow maybe get a Derek Carr or get a Deshaun Watson, whatever it might be, they're contenders in the NFC. The NFC is so wide open. Who's good? Everybody in the West and the Packers, right? And then somebody else is going to emerge. But on paper right now, the NFC is wide open. But in particular, the NFC South, it's going to be had. Somebody's going to emerge as a favorite in the NFC South in the next month, because right now it is undefined.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a good division in terms of being able to lose some quality and still be a division favorite, potentially still be a team that can win that division. But like, this was a team that won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, that was close to going on that run and repeating this year, was a legit contender this year. Those, their aspirations are different. Like, they've just come from a place where they were at the top of the mountain, and all of a sudden they need to try and figure out how you stay at that level, having lost the greatest quarterback of all time, having seen a bunch of your offensive line, is now grayed out for next season. It's not returning as of right now. Antonio Brown's gone. Rob Gronkowski is probably gone. Chris Godwin is a free agent. Like, there's a lot of guys that were significant parts and real key pieces of that championship team that just aren't there anymore. And Bruce Arians is, he's not a spring chicken anymore. All of a sudden, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to look at this and say, have a lot of work to do if they have any hope of being a Super Bowl contender again. Yes, they can still contend in a weak division, but we've seen the NFC East in the last couple of years. Like, that doesn't do a lot of good.
Yeah, again, it's such a quarterback-driven league. Unless it's Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, or if the Deshaun Watson situation gets sorted and he ends up in Tampa Bay, I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender this year. But I think they could put pieces in place, start to think about 2023, whether Bruce Arians is there or not. I think the organization has to have that forward-looking approach. And look, that's how they won the Super Bowl in 2020. Yeah, Brady was the catalyst, and they brought in Gronk and Antonio Brown and all that stuff. But having a secondary with Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean was huge. Having guys like Shaq Barrett on the roster, rushing the passer, Devin White and Levante David, they had good young pieces in place. They have to get back to drafting well, having those pieces in place, and then maybe in 2023, they'll be able to get that high-end quarterback and make a run if they can't get him this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they've got to figure out a way of kind of piecing together an average roster and then find a superstar quarterback to grab and like lead this thing to the promised land. Like, that's the challenge. It's a two-part job. One, make sure that this roster doesn't fall to pieces completely and it's still reasonably viable. And then two, figure out how to repeat the Tom Brady trick, which is probably easier said than done.
So what it comes down to is another team that has another offensive line overhaul ahead of them this offseason. It's one of the biggest stories of the offseason. A lot of offensive linemen available, draft and free agency. Ali Marpet retired, and the Bucs have some work to do. It's a PFF.